Disney in the 2010s is noted for having a decline in the traditional Disney villain because they relied heavily on the twist villains. They're not new to Disney as a concept at all. Pixar had them for quite some time. Monsters Inc. isn't even the first time they had a twist villain. For Monsters Inc., Waternoose was the twist villain, considering that he was orchestrating everything. And yet, in the 2010s, Disney hit the wall with twist villains. Some people argue that the mother of Disney twist villains, pun intended, comes from Tangled, specifically Mother Gothel. I actually disagree that she's meant to be a twist villain. Twist villains are characters who are introduced as good or seemingly innocent and then are revealed to be evil. We knew that Mother Gothel right off the bat was evil. She's the one shown to kidnap Rapunzel as a baby. I suppose she is a twist villain for Rapunzel, but for the audience, that's just dramatic irony. That's what I'm getting at. Twist villainy honestly should add towards the audience and character experience, not subtract. With a character like Gothel, you get a whole song about how she's manipulative. And thus, her death is very satisfying. Nothing really changes, except you're rooting for Rapunzel to learn about her villainy. The next twist villain is Wreck-It Ralph's King Candy. This is honestly where I say the twist adds rather than subtracts to his whole character. Because we've been shown consistently that King Candy is manipulative. He can do things that other characters cannot, such as manipulate the game's code. So when it's revealed that he is Turbo, it really just adds to how he's able to do it because he's had experience manipulating the game's code in order to go Turbo multiple times. It also has a thematic element. He is a seemingly good guy, but he's actually evil, whereas Ralph is a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. And once again, I need to add that its characterization stays consistent throughout. Then we get to Frozen. While I can sort of see why people would give this a pass because it has themes that deconstruct the traditional tropes, such as, I don't know, saying that you can't just marry a man you just met, I don't exactly say that you shouldn't expect something bad out of Hans. However, we run into the issue of characterization again. He acts reasonable for Act 1 and 2, and then when you get to the third act, you see him turn into a snake. You are essentially handing off one character for another. You characterize the character twice, but you cannot give enough screen time to the second time you characterize that character, and that makes the whole thing fall flat. It's the same stupidity on display with Robert Callahan. You introduce him as the good professor. And then he gets to be a super murderous villain. I'm not talking about just killing Cray, whom he holds responsible for his daughter's death. That can be somewhat reasonable and consistent with the original characterization. No. His plan to destroy Kraytech as a whole, with everyone in the surrounding area being damned. And of course, there's the impetus of this movie, the whole killing Tadashi without remorse bit. You see what I mean when you see a character is actually just two characters in a trench coat? You are effectively writing two different characters with the same face. Callahan. He is the reasonable and beloved professor, loved and trusted by everyone. Then a broken-hearted murderer. He would be so much more interesting if they did anything to bridge these moments. They relied so much on the twists that they didn't try to bridge these characterizations. Did he, in his mind, try to justify his own actions to himself? Not just Tadashi's death, but the theft, his faking his own death? Maybe it would be better if we saw him try to process his grief at all, rather than just do this crap. Honestly, this would make him a better foil to Hiro. Hiro's grief nearly led him to kill Callahan and go down a dark path. Hiro had people, and a robot, to help him. Callahan could have easily just been a guy who suffered in silence and that was just unhealthy. But no, twist villains are not allowed to be complex characters. They have to be an on-off switch. Looking at you, Bellwether, assistant mayor to Psycho. I think you see the problem here. These movies rely primarily on the twist itself, but they ignore the characterization. When you're writing essentially two characters with the same face and don't try to bridge the characterizations at all, you're just left with not much. You just have a very boring one-dimensional villain left. Ernesto from Coco is a twist villain, but his actions aren't an on-off switch. We know he was an arrogant jerk before, but his murderous actions are dedicated to covering up the fact that he stole someone's work and made money off of it. King Candy just wants to be the main character and keep the main character position. The Turbo Twist really just says he did this crap before. And more importantly, there's no lines of dialogue akin to saying, "You won't get away with this," and then the villain going, "Ha ha, I already have." Why did I make this guy French again? Well, those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.